Let's talk about the structure of our in-class AP Stats tests. It's intended to be a mini version of the real AP Stats test that you'll take in May so that you get used to the format and the structure. On the real AP test in May, there are two parts: the multiple choice, for which you have 90 minutes, and the free response, for which you have a separate 90 minutes. 40 multiple choice questions in 90 minutes is an average of 2.25 minutes per question. To shrink it down to our in-class tests, we're going to have 12 multiple choice questions in a class period, which is about 40 minutes. So you have slightly more average time per question on our in-class test than you will on the real thing. The free response on AP Stats is a little bit tricky. So you get 90 minutes for 6 questions, but 5 of them you're expected to get done more quickly, the first 5, for an average of about 13 minutes per question. And the last one, called an investigative task, you're expected to block out about 25 minutes for. The investigative task always has things on it that you won't have seen before, and it's for that reason they want you to get more time. For our tests, we're going to focus on the first type of question, the shorter one, which you get the 13 minutes. So in our exam, 3 free response questions in a short class period, which gives you about the same amount of time. It's like 13.25 minutes per question. Because of our class structure this year, we're going to do this over 2 days. The first day will be multiple choice on a Friday, and then we'll finish up with the free response questions the following Monday. All you are allowed is your graphing calculators and your formula sheets. Nothing else. Any work you do must be done on the physical test paper itself. For those of you that have an IEP or a 504 that lets you use extended time, if you want to do that, which you are allowed to do, you must arrange that with me ahead of time. I've got to know your plans before the test happens. There's a lot of reasons for that. So make sure that before our test starts on Friday, if you have an accommodation for extended time, you make sure we talk to get that set up. And it really does come down to this. This is not a test you can memorize your way out of. This is not a test where you can kind of figure a trick or something like that to make sure that you get a good score. You have to know what you're doing. That's the only way to be successful. Now, let's talk about scoring. I'm going to let you know it's going to sound slightly convoluted, and the only reason it sounds that way is because the AP standard is different than the Davis High School standard. So to try and make those match up, I had to do a little bit of mathematical figuring. So here's the basics. Each multiple choice question is 1 point, 12 total. Each free response question is out of 4 points, times 3, 12 total. So your overall test is only out of 24 points. If you miss things, which you probably will, you are expected then to fix them. So we won't do retakes, but we will do corrections. And we'll talk about the specifics of that process afterward. When you fix things, you are going to get half your credit back. So if you get a multiple choice question right the first time, that's worth a point. If you have to go back and fix that multiple choice question, that's only going to be worth half a point. So it is in your interest to, of course, get as much possible the first time through. Now, let's talk about these numbers and what they mean. In order to get the highest score possible on the AP Stats test, which is 5, you need to earn at least a 70% or so. It changes a little bit from year to year, but right around 70. To get the second highest score, you're looking at between 57 and 69, and then the breakdowns for the others as well. This is intended to roughly be equivalent to, if you took this course in college, would you get an A, B, C, D, or F? Roughly, that's the interpretation. Now let's come over to here and to what I'm actually going to be putting in the grade book. So in order to earn your A, your B, your C, your D, your F, these are the cutoffs out of 24 points. They're not exactly matched up with these. They're actually slightly more generous. You're welcome. You're not getting anything else for Christmas from me. Now, the numbers that you see here, these are the scores after you have fixed things. So after you have done your corrections. Off in the parentheses, These are the scores you should shoot for the first time through. So if you are just dead set on having that A, which I hope you're not, I hope you're okay if you fall a little below that, but hey, I would want to shoot for that too. Then the first time through, you want to try and get at least 16 points out of the 24. That means there's 8 points somewhere on the test that you can miss between the free response and the multiple choice. If you're shooting for that B range, which I think is a healthy goal, then the first time through, take a look at this, 11 points to 16 points. 11 is less than half of 24. And I have no doubt that you're capable of earning at least 50% on this test. And then here are the breakdowns for the others. I've set it up so that even if you miss everything the first time through, you get 0 points out of 24. As long as you fix everything, the score that goes into the gradebook will be a D-. Say that again. Even if you miss everything, as long as you fix it with your corrections, the score that's going to go in the gradebook is a D-. Now, some specifics and some examples. There's a slightly complicated piecewise linear function that I use to turn scores out of 24 into percentages out of 100. These are the numbers that will be typed into the Canvas gradebook. Here's a couple examples. Let's imagine the first time through, all you get right is 2 multiple choice questions. That's it. You get nothing on the free response. That means that you earned 2 points. Once you have done your corrections and get half credit back for everything you missed, added to those 2 you already got, you've got 13 points. 13 points puts you here, which ends up being a 64%. That's the number that goes in the gradebook. A couple other scenarios. Let's just take a look here at a midway scenario. Let's say you get exactly half the multiple choice questions right and exactly half the points on the free response. That means you got 12 points overall. When you correct the remaining 12 points and get 6 of them back as half credit, your total is now 18. Well, 18 on this blue line takes you up to an 83. That's what goes in the gradebook. I hope you think that's relatively fair. 50% the first time through, once you correct and once we scale, ends up being, a fairly solid B. If you want above that, then you got to get a few more things right the first time. The last example, let's take a look at one of these two. Let's look at the black one. If you get 8 multiple choice questions, so meaning you can miss 4 of them, and if you get 8 points on the free response, meaning you missed a total of 4 points across the 3 free response questions, that gives you 16. After corrections, takes you to 20. You've got yourself an A-. So the percentages are what they are to reflect the difficulty of the test, but also the expectation that you fix what you missed. Now, I'm not promising this, but very often I do then give you what you traditionally think of as a curve. It's a gift, it's an adjustment. I'll look at what was missed. And when things are missed, I ask myself, okay, is this the fault of the student, meaning you just didn't prepare enough? Is it the fault of the instructor, meaning did I not explain this as well as I wanted to? Or is it the fault of no one? Is there something about maybe the new schedule, or is there something about the way the textbook is written that just made this question harder? If anything falls in those last 2 categories, my fault or nobody's fault, I will typically just give you a few points back to correct for that. Now, that'll vary from test to test and from year to year, so I'm not going to promise that or tell you how much it will be, but that does often happen. Please understand, I've got to grade everything twice, and I got to look at your corrections very carefully, so it's going to take a while to get through these things. I thank you in advance for your cooperation. Once your things are all scored, I'm always happy to discuss questions that you have. I only ask that we go into it with a healthy attitude, looking to make things the best that we can for everybody involved. Thank you very much.